All right, so we are continuing in with domain and range and with discrete functions, again, where they're individual points. However, we're going to do that from a word problem. And I promise you, word problems are not the worst. They are not bad. They are actually, honestly, like pretty easy. So the first thing we're going to do, though, is start with reading. The Monic PTA is selling shirts for a fundraiser. The function f of x equals 10x is used to determine the amount raised y for the number of shirts sold x. They need to sell between 100 to 110 to reach their goal. So what we have here is we have our table, and this is really only to help us visualize what the domain and range is. And then this box here is where we can show our work and plug into the equation. And then our actual final answer will be down here with the domain and range. And the way this is set up is exactly like how your assignment is set up as well. So everything we do on the notes here, you will repeat for each individual problem on your assignment. But you'll see here we are given a function 10x, and it tells us here that y is however much is raised. So the money's always going to be our y value, and the number of shirts is going to be x. So they need to reach, basically, they need to sell 100 to 110 shirts to reach their goal. Well, since domain is x, and x right here tells us is the number of shirts, that means that our domain is going to be 100 to 110. So basically, I can list it out. I can say 100, then they can sell 101 shirts, they can sell 102, 103, 104, and so on all the way until I get to 110. Also note that on discrete functions, what we're looking at here, that it will never include decimals. And that's because the situation can never be a half of something. So for instance, the PTA is selling shirts. Well, they cannot sell you half of a shirt cut down the middle. Um, so it has to be either a whole shirt or no shirts at all. So that's something also to keep in mind with these situations. They will all be a whole thing. Like when you go to the grocery store, you don't buy half of an apple, you buy a whole apple. It's situations like that that we are talking about here today. So what we're going to do then in this box, now that we know the domain is all of these 100 through 110, we're going to use that to substitute to our function. So for instance, we know the function is f of x equals 10x. But if I want to know f of how much do they make basically if they sell 100 shirts, well, just like we learned last week, oh, there's an x there. Learned last week that if we change the x in the parentheses to be whatever number, we also have to change that here. So we have 10 parentheses $100, or 100 shirts rather. So 10 times 100, well, we would then have 1,000. So we put our range here, 1,000. And move on to the next one. I now want to know, click on here. The next one is f of 101. So that is equal to 10 times 101. And if you don't know, I will also make sure that the calculator is attached for you. And you can go 10 times 101, and it tells you it is 1010 or 1010. So we come back to our notes, not these ones. And that is equal to 1010. We may not have enough space to show our work for all these problems, but that's okay. You'll start to pick up what the pattern is here too. So f of 102, then we know it's 10 times 102. Well, if you don't know, 10 times 102, we get 1020. Oops. 1,020. And then now our function for 103 shirts is equal to 10 times 103. So 10 times 103 is 1,030 or 1030. So hopefully you are starting to pick up the pattern of how much it's increasing each time. It's increasing 10 each time. 1,000, 1,010, 1,020, 1,030. So I'm going to use that same pattern and just keep filling in the rest. 1,040, 1,050, 1,060, 1,070, 1,080, 1,090, and 1,100. Just to be sure on that last one too, let's just double check it. So if we did f of 110, oops, not mine, parentheses 110, that would equal 10 times 110. So we erase 3, put 10. That was wrong. 1,100. Okay. So now we just need to go and do the domain and range. So just like we did yesterday, domain is always going to be our x values, which in this situation is 100. You do have to list them all. 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, and 110. Close our bracket. And then our range is those y values. So we have 1,000, 1,010, 1,020, 1,030, 1,040, 1,050, 1,060, 1,070, 1,080, 1,090, and 1,100. Close our bracket, and we're done. That is our domain listed here and our range listed here. So from a word problem. So let's do one more example. A student in Miss Moore's class realized that the number of pages printed is determined by the number of students in each class. The equation y equals 3x plus 2 can be used to determine the number of pages needed y for the number of students x. If students in each class is between 25 and 30, determine the domain and range. So again, here it tells us x is the number of students. Well, it tells us the number of students is 25 to 30, so we're going to put that already for our domain and range. 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. So we just then need to figure out our y values. So it says y is equal to 3x plus 2. So now even though this doesn't start f of x and we don't have f in parentheses our domain number, we can still do the same thing. We can say, okay, y is equal to 3 and change our x value now to be 25 plus 2. So 3 times 25 plus 2 77. So we come here and we say that's equal to 77. So our first box, 77. Then we do the same thing for 26. So y equals 3 times 26 plus 2. So 3 times 26 plus 2 gives me 80. Now, I don't want you to say, oh, the change is increasing by 3. I don't have to show my work on the other ones. I want you to do 3 or 4, just to be sure that your pattern is correct and you didn't actually accidentally mess up somewhere on your calculation. So 3 times now 27 plus 2 more, 83. And we'll do one more and then just fill in those last two. Y equals 3 times 28 plus 3. Wait, I think it's plus 2 actually. So 3 times 28 plus 2 is 86. So sure enough, every time it is increasing by 3. So let's go ahead and fill in these other ones. We got 89 and then 92. And then we cannot forget, though, this last part to do the domain and range. So domain, again, is all those x values. So we have here 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. And close the bracket. And then we have our range is 77, 80, 83, 86, 89, and 92, and close the bracket. But that is essentially all from the word problems. So you just need to be careful what it tells you for the x and those values, and then just substitute those in for your range, your y values, and you have your domain and range.